When we talk about African women figures, we're referring to the trailblazing women from the African continent whose contributions have significantly impacted various aspects of society, whether in politics, arts, science, activism, or culture. These figures are not only pivotal in shaping the narrative of Africa, but also in influencing global perceptions of leadership, resilience, and empowerment. The significance of understanding African women figures lies in their ability to inspire, challenge prevailing gender norms, and offer diverse perspectives on leadership and social change. Consider Miriam Makeba, whose music and activism played a crucial role in the global fight against apartheid. Her art transcended borders and served as a powerful form of protest, linking African struggles to global audiences. Another example is Wangari Maathai, the first African woman to receive the Nobel Peace Prize for her environmental and political activism through the Greenbelt movement. Her dedication not only addressed deforestation and gender inequality, but also emphasized the interconnectedness of environmental sustainability and social justice. Supporting opinions around the importance of these figures often highlight the multifaceted contributions of African women to their societies, arguing that their stories are vital for a comprehensive understanding of global histories. This perspective challenges the often Eurocentric narratives that dominate historical discourse, urging a reexamination of contribution through an inclusive lens. However, there are challenges and controversies surrounding the topic. One major issue is the underrepresentation and marginalization of African women in historical records, driven by colonial, patriarchal ideologies that have dominated historical narratives. Additionally, there can be disagreements about which figures merit recognition, informed by varied regional and cultural biases within Africa itself. The exploration of African women figures is inherently connected with broader discussions of gender equality, heritage, and identity. By highlighting their achievements, it prompts a deeper appreciation of women's roles in history and contemporary society. These figures influence and are, in turn, shaped by wider socio-political dynamics within Africa and globally. They provide role models for future generations, underscoring the importance of inclusive leadership and the transformative power of activism. Engaging deeply with their stories not only enhances our understanding of African sociocultural landscapes, but also enriches global narratives of empowerment and resistance. The concept of historical contributions of African women refers to the vital roles they have played throughout history in shaping societies, economies, and cultures across the African continent. This encompasses their involvement in political leadership, cultural preservation, economic development, and social transformation. Far from being passive participants, African women have been active agents of change, challenging patriarchal norms, and making substantial impacts that resonate beyond their immediate communities. The significance of this is immense. Highlighting their historical contributions not only reclaims narratives that have often marginalized women's roles, but also serves as a powerful reminder of their influence and importance in shaping the African continent. Acknowledging these contributions helps to dismantle stereotypes and encourages a more inclusive understanding of history. One example of such contributions is Asantewaa, the Ashanti Queen Mother who led her people in the War of the Golden Stool against British colonial forces in West Africa in 1900. Her leadership and bravery were pivotal during a critical period of resistance, symbolizing the capacity of African women to spearhead political struggles. Another compelling example is Funmilayo Ransome-Kuti, a Nigerian political activist who was instrumental in the fight for women's rights and independence from colonial rule. Her advocacy laid the groundwork for women's participation in politics and governance in Nigeria. Supporting opinions suggests that recognizing the contributions of African women helps foster gender equality and empowerment in contemporary contexts. These contributions challenge long-standing gender biases and inspire current and future generations of women to engage actively in public life. However, despite these monumental contributions, several challenges persist. Women's historical roles are often underrepresented or overlooked in educational curricula and public discourse, which can perpetuate a limited understanding of their impact. There are also alternative viewpoints that suggest the need to consider intersectionality when examining the contributions of African women. Factors such as ethnicity, class, and colonial legacies interplay with gender to shape their experiences and achievements. The discourse surrounding historical contributions of African women connects deeply with broader themes of identity, cultural heritage, and gender equity. By understanding their past contributions, we gain insight into societal structures and recognize the dynamic roles women continue to play in Africa's development. This recognition not only enriches African history, but also influences contemporary discussions about women's rights and socio political empowerment on the continent. African women in leadership and politics refers to the increasing number of women from African countries who play influential roles in political arenas and leadership positions. This concept underscores the growing recognition and empowerment of women in Africa, who historically have been marginalized in political and governance systems. This advancement mirrors broader global efforts to promote gender equality and the dismantling of patriarchal structures. The significance of African women in these roles is profound. Their leadership often brings diverse perspectives and priorities to political discourse, including emphasizing social justice, education, and healthcare. In many African cultures where women's voices have been traditionally subdued, their rise in leadership positions is transformative. It embodies strides toward gender parity and inclusivity, which are crucial for equitable and sustainable development in African societies. Two notable examples highlight this trend. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf of Liberia made history as the first elected female head of state in Africa, serving from 2006 to 2018. Her presidency brought attention to post war reconstruction and women's rights, earning her a Nobel Peace Prize. Another prominent figure is Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala from Nigeria, known for her tenure as Nigeria's finance minister and her historic appointment as the first female director general of the World Trade Organization. Her leadership in global finance and trade exemplifies how African women can influence international policy and economic reform. Supporters of African women's political involvement argue it enhances governance quality by diversifying leadership styles and policy focuses. Women's participation can lead to more comprehensive and balanced policymaking, reflecting broader societal needs. However, challenges persist. Cultural norms and systemic barriers still constrain many women from ascending to leadership roles. In some regions, women leaders face resistance, often stemming from entrenched patriarchal social structures and inadequate legal protections. There are also alternative viewpoints. Critics might assert that merely increasing the number of women in politics without addressing deeper systemic issues doesn't guarantee meaningful change. Tokenism and superficial adherence to gender quotas without substantive empowerment can undermine progress. This focus on African women in leadership and politics inherently connects to the broader theme of African women figures by demonstrating how diverse female leadership contributes to redefining roles and expectations across the continent. Their influence inspires younger generations and challenges traditional gender roles, sparking broader social change. As African women continue to break barriers and lead at various levels, their contributions will shape the future political landscape of Africa, promoting more inclusive and representative governance structures. The influence of African women in arts and culture is a vibrant and essential aspect of African history and contemporary society. This influence emanates from a deep reservoir of tradition, innovation, and expression, where African women have historically served as both keepers and creators of cultural heritage. Their involvement ranges from traditional crafts and storytelling to modern forms of artistic expression like literature, film, and music, essentially shaping how African culture is perceived both on the continent and globally. Significantly, African women's contributions have enriched the artistic tapestry of the continent, preserving cultural heritage while driving societal progress. These contributions are integral to understanding the broader narrative of African history, where women's voices have often been sidelined. By spotlighting these figures, we acknowledge their roles in not only preserving cultural identity, but also in pushing boundaries and bringing about social change. Take, for example, the works of Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, a Nigerian author whose novels and essays explore themes of feminism, identity, and diaspora. Her works have resonated globally, reflecting African women's perspectives and challenging stereotypes. In visual arts, consider Esther Mahlangu, a South African artist famed for her vibrant paintings inspired by the indelible tradition. Her art has graced international museums and even luxury automobiles, showcasing African aesthetics on a world stage. Supporters argue that recognizing African women in arts and culture allows for a more inclusive understanding of global history and provides role models for future generations of women artists. They stress that by empowering women through recognition, societies can unlock vast potential for innovation and growth in cultural industries. However, challenges remain, such as patriarchal structures and socioeconomic barriers that limit opportunities for many women artists. Furthermore, the global art scene sometimes lacks appreciation for African women's work, often overshadowing them with Western or male dominated narratives. This point ties into larger discussions about gender equality and cultural representation within Africa. As African women in arts and culture gain visibility, they not only redefine artistic landscapes, but also influence other spheres like politics, social movements, and education by using their platforms to advocate for change. In essence, recognizing their impact encourages a ripple effect that fosters diversity, promotes cultural appreciation, and advocates for the rights and empowerment of women across all sectors of African life.